Oh, hey, it's Friday. Welcome to the live stream here. It's Friday. We're in the Nutmeg Tavern. I've got a special guest, Erik Vosteen. Today we're going to be talking all kinds of ancient technology stuff and having lots of fun. Ryan,
hey,
back there behind the bar, he's working on a drink even now.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, Aaron is on the console. Making all things technology work properly. And in the hot seat, in the question seat, is Kyle. He's going to be reading out your questions. He's looking for good questions. If you've got questions about what we do, about ancient technology stuff, send them into the comment box there, into the chat box, and he will round those up.
Especially questions on the canoe project, because we've got the canoe guy here.
Yeah,
Erik Vosteen.
Erik is the canoe guy who was helping us out with that whole project. Do we want to cover anything before we talk about Erik?
No, let's talk about Erik.
Erik, tell us about, these guys may not know you. Tell us.
Well, basically, I do a lot of different things, but it all has the theme of nature and history and people's interaction with nature through history. So that can encompass quite a bit, and actually it has, but of course there's no way you could even ever hope to do it all. So I have certain things I've specialized in. And those things are like boats, stone tools, pottery. Those are a few of the bigger ones that I've specialized in.
Yeah, natural products like fibers.
Yes.
And all kinds of good stuff
I've
like
supplied
that.
Townsends with a few products over the years.
Right.
That's
And,
right. Natural things that can be taken out of the
natural
forest and
foods
fields.
too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Love natural foods. Who doesn't?
And
right?
you cover all that time period from 18th century way on back to ancient kind of stuff.
Right. That's right. Prior to most of the things that we're dealing with here, but it all carries through and it all carries forward.
How long have you been doing it?
Oh, goodness. I think I started doing some public education with it in my mid-20s.
Okay.
So I'm in my upper 40s now. So
Quite a while.
Yeah.
20, 25 years,
20,
something like that.
25 years, yeah.
So,
and always been fascinated with it. Even
Right.
as a kid, I started learning to flint knap back when nobody knew how, and you couldn't find anyone to teach you flint knapping. I was, in 1982, I started flint knapping.
Sure. Great. So, if you got questions about stone tools, if you got questions about dugout canoe building or all those kinds of things, Erik can field some of the. Erik can try to field some of those. Nobody knows everything.
That's a fact.
And if
Can
we
you guys
don't know,
bring the mic closer.
yeah, and if we don't know the answer, well then maybe we just need to scoot up a little bit, just a
maybe
little,
so.
just a little. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
One thing too that's pretty awesome is that the Canoe Series that we did with Erik, total views we're about at 1 million. Total
Yeah, for the
views.
complete series.
Nice.
So it's doing really
Yeah,
well.
we're super excited about that.
And if
That was a
you-
great project.
Yeah, it was fun. We spent a lot of time. I mean, I probably I wanted to start on it in the spring, so we didn't get on it until October. But lots of planning, lots of prep work, and a lot of hours in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was
no,
fun.
the cottonwood is not going to waste.
The cottonwood is not going to waste. The log of that tree is in my garage right now, or in my barn right now. I'm working on it a little bit, and the other one still hasn't cracked or anything. So I'll be working on that later on.
You might end up with 3 canoes before it's over with.
If I'm lucky. If we're lucky, we'll see. We'll see if we can make that
We'll have
happen.
a fleet.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to bring you guys some Switchel to drink. We're drinking Switchel today.
Switchel is the drink. Back in 3rd or 4th season of the cooking episodes, we did a Switchel, and we actually sell a Switchel on our website. Is that one yours or mine?
I'm handing them through.
Okay.
Handing them through.
Okay.
So-
Ooh, it's warm Switchel, a winter Switchel drink.
Okay, we have too many cups on the table.
Yeah, we'll set those aside. It smells good.
So do you remember from your video what all goes into Switchel, John?
It had vinegar. It has a sweetener. You might use honey.
It's a unique smell.
Yeah.
I think
does
it's
it have-
honey and molasses or one or the other, right?
Right. Does it have cider in it? What else does it have in it?
Vinegar and honey and shoot.
And really good stuff. What do you think?
Oh, I like it.
Sometimes rum, but not today.
I don't know that I've ever had anything that tastes quite exactly like it.
Yeah, it's meant to be a summertime thirst quencher, but in the winter here we can warm it up. even though it doesn't have, I don't think it has any cider in it. It kind of gives you that.
It
that
does.
flavor, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would expect it to have that.
It's got.
I remember that smell.
Yeah.
From when we made the original.
You would think.
I think this stuff's great.
Yeah, you would think with something with a vinegar base that it would be like, oh, I don't know, but really, it's actually quite pleasant.
I don't really taste the vinegar. The vinegar adds just a hint of almost like a citrus or
right,
something.
Exactly.
The original one we did was a little. It was cold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was summertime.
Right.
Yeah, I think some of the concept of that was keeping a jug of it in a stream or something like that to keep it cool. I think we covered that in that video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someone was saying it's kind of like a sports drink.
Yeah.
Like an energy drink.
Yeah, it's definitely electrolyte-y and all that good stuff.
Speaking of which, I do that sometimes. I live by a natural spring, and it comes out of the ground at whatever 50 degrees.
Right, yep.
And I often cool things by just dropping them in. It comes out into a bathtub that someone sunk in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Got your own spring house.
Yep.
So we're selling Switch today.
Woo!
One of the many things that we're selling. And I think Aaron's got a link for that.
We got lots of fun stuff on the website. There's the Switchel that he put together a special category of products. We still have a few of the stag mugs, right? Aaron, do you have a picture of the stag mugs?
Yep.
The Nutmeg Tavern stag mug. It's got that picture of the stag jumping over the giant nutmeg. I've got one of those in my trunk of my car. And we still have a few of those in the red and the raspberry color.
Everybody has something.
We have the green too.
Say what?
We still have the green left.
Yeah, we have. We still have the green.
We
left.
have some green left, but there are more raspberries.
Okay,
so if you want green, get there quick.
Yeah. What was that, Kyle?
The green is going fast.
Yeah, the green's going really fast, so they're probably running.
And I will say that I threw on there that white boar's head mug.
Right.
We've only got 3 left in stock.
Okay.
So if you want one of those, you should grab it now.
I know. I noticed the ones disappeared off my desk, so they probably stole it so that they'd sell it. So I don't have one now. Anyway.
Sonia raided the.
Yeah, she
the set the
stole
other day,
stuff
got
off the
all
set
mugs.
here and everything.
Broke into the tavern and stole all of our dishes.
Yeah, I know. And there's probably still some aprons and some tote bags. Okay.
And there's a very special product from Jim's Red Pants.
Oh yeah, Jim's Red Pants. So the folks Rick and Hillary who do the Jim's Red Pants music that you hear all the time on our cooking episodes and on like every video we do, they've got a CD that's just got wintertime music. Does it have some Christmassy stuff?
Yeah, it's got like Hark the Herald Angels.
Yeah.
It's got some carols on there, some other stuff.
We've had the CD for a long time, but it hasn't been on our website. So that is on our website right now, and that is available. So if you're interested in that CD, there you can get that. And is there anything else?
Sale.
And it's on sale.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on there?
Oh, there's some stuff, but you should just go check it out.
So check out the link down in the description, or in the comment. Who knows where he's going to put all that stuff?
Yeah. So let's get into some questions, Kyle.
Yeah.
This stuff is a little bit addictive. You know,
Yeah.
I take a sip and then I put it down and then I start to want another sip after a little bit.
You want some nutmeg in it? No. I'm going to put some nutmeg in it. Go ahead, Kyle.
The same thing.
All right. First question. How did dugout canoes affect internal exploration and settlement of the United States via waterways too small for bigger vessels?
Well, they certainly enabled it, but I think that's something that I just couldn't address the scope of. They've been made for so long. You're talking about a boat that goes back to the point of, I'm not sure that archaeology in the eastern woodlands goes back much farther than these boats have been found, or the traces have been found. So,
especially for a wood thing.
Exactly. Right? I mean, so many of them end up in the bottom, in the muck that preserves them in places that they're preserved, that there's a decent record of dugout canoes, actually, and they go back thousands of years. So in order to look at that, you'd have to go back so far to look at an economy that we really can't look at. So I don't know that I can address the scope of that other than to say they certainly enabled that. And they have the ability to be dragged over obstructions, and so they can, they're a tough, sturdy vessel that although they're not super nimble, in the long haul, they'll get where you need to go on the waterways.
And if you just look at when Europeans come to the New World, they start to use those immediately. They don't necessarily have access to better vessels than what was available to them, like these dugout canoes. So you'll find people like Cresswell and lots of other people exploring and settling back into the backwoods of North Carolina or backwoods of North America, and they're using exactly that same boat. So it's being used over and over.
And they were scaled to the waterway. There are accounts of massive dugouts going down the Ohio River. We're talking 60, 80-foot dugouts that are so wide that that's amazing. I know, just massive boats. So
and then
shorter ones that you could maneuver around a tight little, a river, the bends in a river.
Right. So very important vessel.
Yeah.
How heavy is the canoe?
I would say, even though I still whittled it down, I sank it this morning because it's starting to get way too icy for it to be not out of the pond. It's probably in the vicinity of 350 to 400 pounds.
Wow,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still have a little whittling to do around the very, very bottom corners. Just to get that, because the fire kind of rounds it in a circle, and those bottom corners end up being kind of thick. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think mine ended up being the one that I currently have. It's around the 300 mark, I would say, between 250 and 300. Far more than one person's going to move easily. Far more than two people are going to move easily.
Right.
On dry land, of course,
How much time did it take us to actually finish the canoe?
I wish I knew a good way to calculate the hours, because there were hours that people were working on it in a large group, and then there were hours that I put into it individually. So I would say it probably has 50 hours in it.
It's hard to say when it's finished, too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like one of those projects that you kind of continually work on. If you want to change something about it, you can.
There are a few accounts of, say, two people going into the woods and building one in the course of a week and a half.
Right.
So there are accounts, so we can kind of use that as a scale. But once again, you're still doing all the things of daily life. You're not working an 8-hour schedule on it, although some days you might even work more. Yeah. It's always tough. And having done a number of these, I've never really put my foot on an exact number of hours. Right. But one can be finished reasonably by a good crew in 3-4 days.
Right. And so in Cresswell's book, he doesn't talk about exactly how many people are doing it, but they built two 30-foot ones out of walnut. Who knows what that would have been like. It took them 2 weeks to do that. But I don't know exactly how big that crew was to make those two. I think I saw someplace 4 men, 4 days.
Mm-hmm. But I believe that.
And
to some extent, it depends on what tools you have available.
Yeah.
If you only have one chopping tool, only one person can work at a time.
Right.
So, there's some differences there.
How did you move the log, and what did you do with the other half?
Well, that particular log, it wasn't big enough to do it, split it in half.
It wasn't big enough, and it wasn't quite straight enough to do that. If it would have been perfectly straight, we might have gotten 2 canoes out of that one. But it turned out that log only made 1 canoe.
Yeah, right. So, and we hauled it on a trailer, obviously. We weren't going to, haul it any other way, because it came from, you drove that in a very slow trailer. You probably spent 2 hours driving around.
I did. I drove that the trailer I had was an actual log trailer, and I pulled it behind my car, and it was so bouncy that I had to go literally 10 to 15 miles an hour for, 35 miles, something like that.
It took a long Yeah, it didn't have any suspension whatsoever, just the bounciness of the tires. So that thing was a real...
Now, I do have a little bit of insight into moving them, though. I've done some of these with 5th graders, and I can tell you that 50 5th graders can drag the log, not just the canoe piece, but the entire log with a rope. So when you start adding people's effort, it happens kind of amazingly how little everyone has to contribute. And I would say that my canoe, we drug it across about 200 yards of sand up at the Michigan dunes. And that took 6 people pulling hard. So just dragging it. And that's over just dry sand.
I'm going to do some donations real quick?
Please.
I'm having some connection problems, so I'm not going to keep switching cams. That seems to make things kind of lag out. So, sorry that you can't see my face.
There's more than one camera?
Yes, there is.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so $10 from
Your cup, Erik.
$10 from who was
David
that?
Dinelli.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll go back through the questions here real quick. Then $10 from 80s Totally Awesome.
Thank you.
$2 from Brian Johnson.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
$2 more from 80s Totally Awesome.
There he is again.
Thank
Okay.
you. $2 more from 80s Totally Awesome.
Jeez Louise. Thank you.
$5 from Aaron C. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Aaron.
Same
Thanks
to
a lot,
you.
Aaron.
So with this first question, did they have to find? This is from David Dinelli.
Okay.
Did they have to find specific species of wood, or did any type of tree work? Did they have specific canoe trees, shingle trees, etc.? And then we'll do the rest of the questions after.
Good question.
Absolutely. I'll take the first part of that one at least. Almost any tree will make a dugout canoe, but some trees work a lot better. And I don't have the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of building these to know all of the reasons, but I can tell you some of the reasons. Tulip was known historically even as the canoe tree. Where it's found, it is the most common canoe tree. Part of that may be that it doesn't waterlog. Part of that is its resistance to rot. Part of that is that it's fairly easy to chop and to work with. And it will split, so you can split the top and the bottom off to make your initial plank.
And it's light.
And it's not very. That's right. It's in the mid range, but it's not a heavy wood. Another preferred was southern yellow pine down south, and when you get up north of the tulip belt, there's an obvious clear preference for white pine. And I've also seen a number of really elegant ancient crafts, artifacts made out of cypress. So those are preferred. Now that said, I've seen a lot of species identified, enough that I'm just sure that anything you can find, if you just need a boat, you can build one out of any tree that meets your size requirements. Right. The question is, how long is it going to take for it to waterlog, if that matters to you, and how long is it going to last? How is it going to, and how easy is it going to be to work? How easy will the wood be to hollow out? So those are my thoughts on that.
Right. And the other ones we have historical references to, obviously the walnut that Cresswell talks about, which I've never heard any place else. And Lewis and Clark used cottonwood, which I don't think is going to make a very good one, but that's what you've got available, and they grow right beside the water.
I don't think it's much unlike choosing vehicles now.
Yeah.
If there are some people that want to know that their vehicle is going to last them for 12 years, and there are some people, like in what I do, a lot of bands are like, I need this van to get me through one tour. That's it, and then it can break down.
Right.
So
right, and that's
it just
I
depends.
think that's definitely what Lewis and Clark were thinking. It's like, well, that's the biggest tree. It's right beside the water. I don't care how long it lasts. Let's do it.
There's like a hierarchy of concerns.
Right.
Number one is, do you have the tree?
Yeah.
So of the trees that you have, then you can decide which are easiest to work, which will last the longest if that's important to you, things like that.
Right.
But there are definite differences in preferences.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, it's good. Good stuff. And then the other question from 80s Totally Awesome. This person has like 10 questions. What fibers are native to Virginia? Is milkweed okay to wear next to bare skin? Couldn't you use the burnout of the canoe wood for ink? Will you do a acorn bread video? Would a steeper angle on the stone axe blade last?
You might.
What was the last one,
What was
Aaron?
the last one?
Would a steeper angle on the stone axe blade last?
Okay, well, I'll do that one first. A steeper
Yeah.
angle on the stone axe blade would last longer, but it wouldn't cut as fast, and there's an ideal, and it seems to be just under 90 degrees for stone. And that's the difference. If you could get this to hold the same profile as steel, it would chop as fast.
Sure.
But if you do that, it will break the edge.
Right.
So yes, it would. The steeper it is, the longer it lasts, but also the less effective it cuts, and there's a magic point, so to speak.
So what about flint in using that?
On wood,
Yeah.
I suspect that it can be done, but I've never done it. The Egyptians made some ground flint.
Whoa.
adzes and blades. And there may be some Mayan stuff, but I'm not real familiar with the Mayan stuff. Most of these big flint items are going to be hoes.
Really?
Especially with Mississippian people using them a lot for gardening because they're gardening down in the rich, loamy soil where there's not a lot of rocks. So you can chop with a stone, with a flint, a brittle flint hoe, and never hit a rock. And and it cuts through roots nicely. It's a really good tool for that.
Okay.
So we got to reel it in a little bit and get some of these questions done.
Uh-oh, what was the other one?
The milkweed against the skin.
Oh, that's a good one. No, it won't. It won't hurt you if it doesn't irritate you. Just try it. Dogbane and milkweed do, in fact, have some toxins in them, but you're only using the fiber. I'm not going to say that there's absolutely no remnant of any of those toxins in any of that, but I've never seen an adverse reaction from it other than when I tried to leg roll and it pulled all my hair out. I got a bad rash from that.
Do you know anything about indigenous fibers to Virginia? That was one question.
You know, I don't, unfortunately. I can tell you what's around here, but in Virginia, I would have to go to the reference sources.
So what are the biggies around here?
The biggies around here are going to be, for massive amounts of fiber for like nets and ropes and things that have to really have a lot of fiber in them, you're going to use the basswood and the pawpaw because those are the two strongest ones that I know of. For really fine tree fiber, red elm makes a beautiful, lush, soft, fine fiber. And then you have your weedy type plants, let's call them. Dogbane, milkweed, swamp milkweed, evening primrose has a fiber. Burdock actually has a fiber.
Stinging nettles?
Stinging nettles, of course, the classic nettles. And nettles are a favorite. You just need to harvest them early in the year before they rot. They rot by now. By now, they're already getting bad.
Too much.
You want to get them right as they turn brown.
Okay, good.
So, and there's a few others that I missed, but those are the big ones.
Okay. Well, and even tulip tree, for that matter.
Tulip tree does have a decent fiber, as you had some in your pond there, I noticed, and it seemed like
that's
pretty
what we
decent
used
fiber.
with the coal cracker videos, right?
Coal cracker, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aaron, were there any more questions in that bunch? I know the acorn flower.
I mean, there's been
You
a
didn't
bunch
have any
more
good
donations
acorn
since,
flour?
No, I
haven't
don't
played
do
with
much
acorns?
with acorns. You know, there are places like, say, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and places where the hickories aren't available. People really relied on the acorns. Desert Southwest, there are some really yummy acorns down there too. But the hickory group, the hickories, walnuts, butternuts, just make such good, rich food that
why would you use an acorn if you had that?
Yeah, and a lot of times in this area, and I don't know about a lot of times, but at least a couple of times I've seen reference to say that people were gathering acorns in case of starvation.
Okay.
So
perfect.
It wasn't considered a main fare, but well known how to use it and a good and an edible food. But not considered the premium, so to speak, in this part of the world. I don't want to generalize too much there.
Okay. You got something more for us, Aaron?
I mean, there's more donations, but we can go back to questions and I'll read them all out at once.
Okay, we'll do a couple questions.
Right. I think that this is going to be a really popular guest, so let's try to get really short, quick
We're going to
answers
shorten up the answers?
Right, yeah.
Oh, fine.
I'll try.
Unless it's something that really makes you tick.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
So far, all of them?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, then, here we go.
I don't think it's too big of a deal.
What you got, Kyle?
A ton of questions that make Erik tick.
Uh-oh.
All right. First one says, early on, John, you mentioned these submerged canoes were very quiet in the water. Was that because they were submerged or the specific shape?
Well, when I'm talking about the canoe being quiet, I'm comparing it with modern canoes, which are all thin, metal canoes.
To get paddle strikes.
Right. Whenever you are doing that, or just moving around in it, you've got a loud canoe, whether it's made out of plastic or metal. These are thick and wood, and they have a heavy resilience to them, and when you bump into them, they make very little noise.
Yeah, that and a lot of the modern canoes have sort of a slanted where they exit the water. They have sort of a slant, and
so
the
you get
waves will go
slapped.
swoop, 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 whereas these have a pretty square side, and the waves just sort of
You're all right.
sort of hit them, and getting excited here.
Yeah.
See, they just sort of hit that side,
Right.
and just you might get when the waves get good size a little bit, but not much sound.
Yeah, compared to they're just silent, really. Okay. Here we go.
What would the oars be made of, or did they just use poles? And there's a second part. It says, did they have waterproof tinder containers for clumsy canoers?
All good questions. Okay, what would the I would call
Paddle
them
wood.
paddles.
Yeah.
What would they be made out of? Honestly, in this part of the world, I don't know. And I don't know that I've ever seen one. If it were me, I would go with one of the lighter weight woods. I would probably stick with something like ash. Ash is not super lightweight, but it's very strong and can be made into a nice thin paddle. So I would go with ash, maybe basswood, but basswood you sacrifice some strength. It's not the strongest wood. But I honestly don't know, because that's something that I've not seen many found archaeologically to identify the wood.
Right.
What was the other part of that? I missed it.
Waterproof tinder containers.
Waterproof tinder containers. I believe so. Yes.
There we go.
And
You don't
once
say what it's
again,
made of.
not something that I can give you an absolute on.
Maybe
I'm
they're
sure-
referencing your fire kit that you used.
Yeah, so that was just a chunk of very large river cane that fit into each other, and it's not waterproof. If I would drop that in the water, it would get wet, but it will keep things from taking on moisture out of the atmosphere very quickly, so that you have a slower.
What if you waxed the joint? What do you think?
You might do some good there.
Right.
You might do some good there.
So I think a reference here is our friend Jim Wilson, who we've done some videos with, was actually in a canoe accident not too long ago. And he said that he was in the water for about 10 minutes before he got out. And he was very happy that everything in this pack and this bedroll was still dry. So a lot of that is just how you're maintaining your equipment, too.
He was using oilcloth.
Nobody's going to go swimming with this stuff. If they're in the water, they're going to be getting out as quickly as they can.
Absolutely, and I have absolutely no doubt, all confidence, that ancient people had a way to do that. I just don't know what it is. If you're talking about people who could come up with ways to do all kinds of things that are stunning, even by today's standards. So I have no doubt that it was done, and that there was a lot of knowledge on that, or now sufficient knowledge on that. I just don't know what it is.
Would the average frontiersman know how to make stone tools?
No, I don't think so.
I doubt it.
No, why? He's got access to metal tools, so that's what he's going to be using and purchasing.
When was the shift to birch bark canoes?
Oh my goodness, I could not even begin to tell
Well,
you
I think that he's asking a time question, but I
Yeah.
really think it's a regionality
It
question.
is. It's a regionality question, and there's no telling how far back birch bark canoes go. I would say so far it doesn't even matter anymore. Probably as far as
Right.
dugouts.
Since you don't know archaeologically, they don't last like a dugout
That's
would.
right.
You
They-
can't date them back. very
That's
far.
right. Certainly they were used alongside each other in historic times, though.
Okay, Aaron, let's get some of those donations.
Okay, where were we? Okay, $1.99 from Chris Pinkerton.
Thank you, Chris.
I very much like your channel. Thank you. $5 from Brian Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
$10 from Max Are Cool. Thank you so
There
much.
you are, Max.
So happy to enjoy another Friday at the Nutmeg Tavern.
Yes.
$1.99 from Dan C. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
$5 from Paulo.
Yes.
Thank you. $5 from James Daughtry.
Thank you, James Daughtry.
Today's Christmas at Grouseland, which is William Henry Harrison's Governor Mansion, 1812, in Vincennes, Indiana.
Yeah,
Have you
okay,
ever been
Vincennes.
there? Have you
Sure.
been there?
Well, I've been to Vincennes, but I don't
Right.
think I've been to that spot.
Same. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, that's all I got for now.
No
Thanks,
questions that
everyone.
are definitely
Nope.
connected with those? Okay,
Just-
Hey,
wonderful.
John,
That's
can you
awesome.
Money.
go ahead and talk about Patreon and talk about those?
So let's talk about Patreon for just a little minute. We get a lot of people that support us through Patreon to help us do what we do here on the channel. And I've got some names of brand new Patreon supporters in the last. I didn't have the list last week, so it's 2 weeks worth. But there's an awful lot of names here. I'll try to go through them really quick here. Alexander Midgley, Charles Rose, Noon Vicky, Chris Murphy, Shannon Wells, Matt Jackson, Dennis Sheridan, Kyle Leffold, Verserius, I don't know what that one is, Christopher Potter, Michelle Elbert, Jack Rayner Pryor, Michael Schultz. They just go on and on. Here's one that's Chop and Brew. Sounds like an interesting one. And there was oh gosh, Captain First. There's just lots and lots. I really want to thank all the amazing support that we get from Patreon people that help us do things like the canoe video or all the other ones where we have to go places and you guys help make it happen. Thank you so much.
All right, and one more thing real quick. We're halfway through the live stream, and we've got an Instagram contest.
Instagram every week. Well, mostly every week. Every week we can possibly do it. We go through the Instagram feed. We pick out things, people that have hashtagged Townsends, and we pick out a winner when we get a chance to do that. And this week's winner is, which one did you pick?
It's Mom Fetty.
Okay.
And she made some candied orange peel that looked awesome.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how she used 2 recipes. One was a modern one.
Yeah.
And it looked really pretty, but it wasn't very good.
Okay.
And then she just took the candied lime peel and used orange peel, and she said she loved it.
Great.
And it was going too fast to make it into her cake, so she had to make some more.
Yeah, that's a problem with it. Sometimes you make it and it's really good, and then you eat it, and then you don't have it, and you have to make more. That happens. So... And they were, what was the name again?
Mom Fetty.
Mom Fetty.
I'll be getting in touch with you if you're watching about a prize for winning the Instagram contest this week.
Make sure to check out the Townsends hashtag. There are lots of great pictures there. And if you want to, you want to participate, if you've got a picture that has to do with merch or with recipes or with anything historical, whatever, you can tag it with the Townsends hashtag. We would love to see it. Thank you so much for being involved with that.
We want to see some dugout canoes.
Yeah,
we want to see other people doing dugout canoes.
Yeah.
So maybe you could make one out of a little stick or a giant one in your backyard.
We could have a dugout canoe club like the Model T club, guys. Right. That would be pretty cool.
And then we could all get together and put them all on the Wabash River and take a giant flotilla of dugout canoes down.
As wide as the river. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe even throw in an elm bark.
Here we go. We can do that. We can do that.
So real quick, I got a donation that has a good question with what we're talking about. Well, real quick, $2 from Indie Kitty 1.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. $5 from Dan C.
Yes.
How far west were canoes like this made and used, and until when?
What do you think?
That's a good question.
I am going to say coast to coast. And when you get to the coasts, they're made with quite a bit more style and quite a bit more care and artisanship, I would say. The ones inland tend to be pretty utilitarian.
Sure.
Some of these coast canoes are absolute works of ocean-going art.
Mm-hmm.
So, did I cover that, or was there another portion to that question?
Well, there was...
How late?
Well, until when?
Yeah, until when?
Still going today.
Yeah.
Native people, I know a number of Native people who still build these with their communities, especially the ocean-going boats and an interior. I believe there's a build going to happen in February in Michigan with a Native community.
So have you seen any of the ocean-going ones in person? Like, is there a trend on how long or wide they are?
Yes, they tend to be very large. I would say 25 to 35 feet long. It was the one or two that I've seen, and 5 feet wide.
Wow!
Yeah.
Can you imagine what tree are they using for that?
Cedars.
Giant cedars. I can imagine.
Earlier, if there were ever any accounts of cedars.
Yeah, you probably make a cedar like cruise ship.
Yeah, they have a different shape. You know, they have bows that will slice through the waves, and they have a little different stabilization theory behind them. So they're art. They're beautiful.
Right, and dugout canoes are not North American exclusively. Obviously, they're made all around the world, right?
Absolutely.
There was even somebody sent a link to some UK find of a medieval and an even earlier dugout canoe, in Great Britain. So, I mean, they're all over. Whether they're Northern European, Baltic,
African.
area. Yeah,
if you go exploring certain places in the world right now, you will take a ride in a dugout canoe. It may have a motor on the back.
Right. Sure.
What you got, Kyle?
All right, this question is for Erik. Could you make a single-person canoe out of a small tree?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, part of that depends on your skill as a paddler. Some people can paddle a kayak that's barely wide enough to get their butt into. So if you can do that, then you can make anything that will float you, and you just have to displace enough water to keep you above the surface and have the skill to paddle it. So absolutely. And I, one of the ones that I've been involved with building won't quite do 2 adults. Now it'll do 2 fifth graders, no problem. But 2 adults, you're not going to be able to paddle it unless you are expert paddlers.
Yeah. Well, there was one historical reference, and they were talking about the canoe being like the back of it was broken, and it was a European being paddled by 2 native folks, and they were always in danger of it, tipping over or whatever, and so they had to be super, super careful. The counts are all over the place as to how stable they were or not stable they were. So it's interesting.
Once again, it's subjective based on your ability.
Yeah.
A canoe that one person can't paddle kneeling down and being really careful, other people can paddle standing up on the gunnels. I mean, it really is. It's highly skill oriented.
The way that you jumped in the canoe on the third video and started rocking it back and forth made me kind of scared. I'd never be able to do that. That was nuts.
Right, and that comes with experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't spent much time in one, but give you a couple of days traveling around in that thing, and you're going to
know exactly
get
how
your
far
ship
you
legs,
can, Exactly.
When Josh and I got in and we were both standing up and going around John's pond in the canoe, it was rough. I had never done that before standing up, and I'm an avid canoeer, so
it's different.
yeah, it's different, definitely.
Yeah, Ryan and I rolled in it, and we were having a heck of a time turning it. Okay, turn it. I mean, it's still heavy. Hey, real quick, this is someone who left a donation. They just didn't have a question in the donation, so I want to be sure to ask this. Were dugout canoes used on the Great Lakes? This is from Brian Johnson.
Yes, I'm sure that they were. I doubt that they were used very far offshore very often. But I have certainly seen accounts of dugout canoes on the Great Lakes.
But none that look like the ocean ones.
No, not that I know of. I've never. That is an interesting question, and no, I've not seen any evidence of these big open water, big water canoes like are built on the coast being used in the inland.
But they did have
seas.
very big birch bark canoes.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
for the Great Lakes.
Like 38, 40 foot birch bark canoes that would haul many, many tons.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Kyle?
Oh, I've got tons of questions.
I wanted to ask a quick question for Erik, though.
Is this an Aaron question?
An Aaron question, because I meant to ask him this when we were shooting the videos. What was unique about the canoe that we did, compared to other ones you've done? What was something that we did that you had not experimented with or had seen?
He had the pleasure of working with me, which is...
That
is true. That is true. I would say, did you do a scow end on one end of it?
Yeah.
I've never done a scow end before. All of mine have had either a rounded or a more of a prow, more of a pointed prow on them. And let's see. I think that one used an axe more than some of the past, but that's been a learning experience for me. And I think I even recommended to use the axe, because the more I've used the different tools, I've realized that axes were underrated by myself at first in that build process. Right. So rather than using adzes, the axe actually works really well for certain things that I hadn't figured out.
Bigger the better.
Yeah,
man, you want to
when you're first going, then it's like put that sucker away for the last couple of days, or else you're going to break the thing. So it's kind of funny how you have to change through your tools as you go.
You do.
This is not a question, but it's still a fun little piece of information. This comes from Jamnell Martin. We are watching the Canoe Series as a part of our homeschooling.
Oh, cool.
So
nice.
This question says, did colonists have access to the ads?
Oh, yeah. Sure. They're going to have access to all those standard metal tools that you have available. And if you look at the inventories of trading posts, like there's the 1813 inventory at Fort Wayne, you'll see a lot of those sort of tools showing up. There's even there's an inventory of the tools that Lewis and Clark had with them on their trip. They had a ton of woodworking tools, saws and adzes and axes and all that kinds of stuff.
And the name gutter adze,
Yeah.
that curved scooped adze, that comes from hollowing out actual gutters.
Yeah, imagine making
Wooden gutters.
Wooden gutters, yeah.
So they go as far back as the Forge and Smith, I think.
Yeah.
What was the primary function of the canoe?
Access to water resources and transportation. In a nutmeg shell.
Yep.
Right. So they don't have a shell, really. Anyway,
My bad.
Yeah, so you're going to be gathering things. You're going to be fishing. You're going to be gathering wild rice or other kinds of fibers, anything in the water, and you're going to use it to go places. Yeah, so those two things.
Transport of cargo, transport of individuals, and access to water resources.
Just south of here, there's documentation of somebody that owned one on the river and just used it to ferry people and their goods across.
Yeah.
And you just knocked
And
on
of
his door
course,
and he'd come
children love to play in them.
Yeah.
So they're a great toy.
Speaking of carrying people inside them, what is the largest amount of people you have seen in a dugout canoe?
5.
There we go. 5.
If you type in, if you Google search Angel Mounds Dugout, there is a picture of the one that you paddled with 5 people in it.
Mm-hmm. I bet you could even get more than 5.
You might be able to. We had
You just can't.
We only had about that much freeboard, and I think each person used about that much. So as long as you don't rock more than a half of an inch, I think you can put one more person in there.
Speaking of Eric's canoe, what do you do, and what is your website, Erik?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what do I do?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of went through that earlier.
Yeah, we're
and
going through
I,
it.
I have,
people are here.
I have a lot of different things that I do, but my website is burntmud.com. Although it hasn't been updated in a while, it is there.
But you can contact them through
yep,
that.
you can contact me through that. That's right. And basically, I've taken a lot of rabbit trails from early childhood fascination, even of nature, and which has developed into a fascination of with nature and how people have interacted with nature through history, in modern times as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it's a hard thing for me to sum up. And so I have to make it that broad, or it doesn't cover everything.
But it tends to be primitive technologies.
It does.
Things that are directly related
It
with
does.
that. I mean, in fact, everything we do is related to nature in some way or another. I mean, all the things we have, but it's that first step directly from nature into a technology, into a resource. Right?
And technology is a key word because that's how humans survive. We survive by using technology. Whether that technology is making a fire with a hand drill or using an iPhone or building an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Our primary, if you ask me, adaptation to this world is our ability to manipulate and use technology. Mm-hmm. And that goes as far back as people go.
Yeah.
So if you're part of a historic site or museum and you need an expert to talk to about primitive technologies or come in and help you build a canoe or anything like that, Erik's the person to contact.
Thank you.
All right, Kyle, what else you got?
Let's see. How similar would a coracle be to a canoe in terms of design and purpose?
I'd say nothing like it.
Yeah. Although they had coracle-like things, right? Like bull boats.
Yes, absolutely.
Skin boats.
Especially in the, I believe the Mandan people. Mm-hmm. That I believe they made a lot of them were. I've seen a number of accounts of coracle-type boats, circular, made out of a bison skin.
Right. So we're talking about basically a big basket, and you cover that with skin, or in the case of coracles, you would use fabrics that, they would use like canvases or lighter fabrics, and then they would coat them with linseed oil, basically an oil paint to make them waterproof. But that was always an adaptation of a leather covering. And if you want to study like St. Brendan's, voyage, where they use ox hides for the outside of that. Mm-hmm. So there's so much great fun technology that you can, dig into about them making these basically a giant, huge basket boat covered with leather and then sail in the sea with it.
And just to commiserate with anyone who's failed to build a boat, I started with a good friend to build a boat. We call them a bull boat, and never finished it. So there you have it. We failed.
Let's see. How often were skin canoes used? There you go.
I think that depends on where you are. If you're up in the Inuit area, you're going to see a lot of skin boats, let's call them. But I don't think I can answer that other than to say there were some bull boats, the round coracle type ones that I know for sure were made in the Great Plains. Recently had somebody who does a lot with the Miami Nation say that he believes the Miami used them. And I would have no trouble believing that. And then you have the northern,
right. If you don't have access to things like birch bark, if you're even further north than that, skin is the obvious place to go. Right. Leather, things.
Yeah. Once again, when materials, the primary concern is, do you have it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Will Lord, but he made a skin canoe or skin boat out of cowhide, which was pretty cool. I've seen.
So real quick, we're drinking Switchel today. And
Yeah.
we're selling it through the
Switchel.
link, and we're selling some other stuff. John, you want to talk about that? real
Yeah, if you're interested in merch that we do here on the channel that's directly related to Nutmeg Tavern and what we do here on the channel, check out the link. There's Switchel, which we've done in a previous episode. We've got some Nutmeg Tavern mugs, the red and the green ones that have the deer jumping over the giant nutmeg, and we also have some aprons and some tote bags and other specific things that Ryan thought were really good.
Yeah, the Jim's Red Pants CD is
Oh, yeah.
on there that we haven't really been selling long.
Right, a Winter's
And
Day.
Most of the things on there, though, I'm trying to close out this year's merch. So
Yeah, we
it's-
just got a
there's-
few things left over, so now's the time to check it out. Are we ready for another question?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one says, if I want to use a canoe every day, will it have to be registered through the DNR?
Not if it doesn't have a motor on it. Not if it is not
Depends on
under
the state.
motor power. In Indiana. That's
In
correct.
Indiana. Depends on your state.
That's right. Other states, don't ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to check with your state.
This is a random question related to the pipe storage box behind you hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Why does it have a drawer on the bottom, and what was it used for?
That's where you put your tobacco.
That's right. And probably your pipe tamp,
Yeah.
different tools.
Paraphernalia.
Yeah.
Well, I use that word.
Equipment.
That's what it's
Utensils.
called, I think. That's what it's called.
Your equipment. How were wooden projects finished and protected, both primitively and in the 18th century? I think they mean like from water and stuff like that.
Sure. What do you think?
Okay, I don't know much about ancient times because that's knowledge that's been
Lost,
largely
yeah.
lost, not probably completely. But there are some interesting things. There's you can boil the bark of a hemlock tree and make a pretty good varnish.
Really?
It's a pretty neat stuff. Yeah, you boil it down until it's really concentrated, and there are resins in there. Not only does it stain, but it also puts an actual coating finish on.
That's right.
So there's that. But other than that, I don't think that I have much thoughts on other ones. Pitch does work. You can melt pitch on something, and it especially wood, because the wood isn't moving, so it's not going to crack the pitch. And then you can make pitch. You can put additives in to make it more flexible. So I would say melted pitch and what I call hemlock stain or hemlock varnish. Those are the two I know about. And then
Right, and then
historically,
obviously when you get back in, European technologies, you're using something like boiled linseed oil, which is, what turns into a primitive oil paint, and you can use that to.
there's also animal fats.
Right,
So
sure.
we don't want to forget
Right, we
those.
can just- Right, waxes, animal fats, all those things are available.
Have you all heard of 18th century trekking, where people get together in 18th century kit and do a river/lake trip in dugouts and period watercraft?
Yes,
Yes.
that was a quick one.
I'll defer that to John.
All right. How common was violence on the frontier?
I think it's a pretty violent place. In a lot. Obviously, it depends on the situation and the, what the conflict is there. Whether it's two societies that are clashing, or whether it's just violence because it's a survival situation.
Somewhat lawless.
Yeah, obviously, there's a certain quantity of that, and depending on the place and the time, there was a lot of use of alcohol, and that can lead to a lot of violence too. So,
And from the European perspective, the frontier would be where the colonists are moving into new areas, and you're
Right.
going to that's an invasion.
you're always a clashing.
Yeah,
of
that's
cultures.
an invasion of a culture that's already there.
Yeah.
So there are going to be violent clashes occasionally, as
Yeah.
any history will point out.
What's the advantages of a dugout versus a raft?
Oh goodness, I would right away say the dugout is a much better craft for traveling. You can just paddle it forward. A raft is a horrible thing to try to paddle. And without going into a lengthy explanation, you would have to go out and just try that, and you would quickly
Right.
figure it out. The raft, you'd be going back and forth trying to get it to go in a straight line. And however, the raft may have some advantages in certain situations, like just if you were roping across a river and just pulling yourself across. That's a pretty good. And a raft can be a very stable platform. So.
But even in a giant river, I would think that a raft would be a real pain because you really can't control it very well. So you're at the mercy of wherever it's going to take you.
That's right. And now if you had like 2 people on each side of it, then maybe you could do some coordinated paddling to keep it going roughly the way you want.
Sounds like work.
Horribly designed for travel in a forward fashion.
Yeah.
For forward motion.
Yeah. Let me get some donations here real quick.
Yeah.
Just a couple. This is 80s Totally Awesome again.
There
$5.
he is. Thank you.
Thank you. And then €5 from Timothy Keys. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy.
And both of these have questions.
Okay.
Let's do Timothy's first. Say a traveler lost his metal tools in a canoe tipping. Would fashioning a replacement from stone or something else be common knowledge and practice?
I'm going to say not if you're assuming that they have steel tools, there would have been a very short period in history where the two would overlap. Yeah. Unless you're talking about an indigenous person who had that knowledge and at some point switched, but you're talking a couple, 3 generations, that knowledge starts to leave.
Yeah.
That'd be my thought.
I don't think you're going to see much of that, except for extremely, extremely crude situations where you've got no other choice. But generally, that takes a lot more time and a lot of skill to be able to manipulate these materials into anything useful at all.
Right, a skill, and a working knowledge of all the tools you need to make this tool, and how you acquire those tools. It's not a simple thing. Making one of these is not a matter of, I'll just go out and and start grinding on it.
Right. It's like with what? You're talking about a situation where people have generationally evolved these or discovered and used these ways and saved up tools to help them do it, and you make one tool from another, so to speak, and as is always true. Yeah.
And this other donation, this was, I think he asked this before and we didn't get it, but he asked it again and gave us money, so we got to answer it.
Yes, we will answer it.
Yeah. So it was ink from burned canoe chips, low spots, fixing the low spots in the canoe with pine pitch, and any news on your exchange with British Lord John. I don't know what that means.
Oh boy, I don't have anything on that part. But ink, one of the ways that people made ink was out of lamp black, which is like charcoal, but actually it's super fine, and you would get that off of burning certain things and letting that soot develop, and you would take that soot. It's very, very, very fine. It's hard to grind charcoal into that fine of a powder. So really you want to make it by burning things and developing that soot. And what was filling
was it
the low spots in the canoe
with pine pitch?
Yeah.
You could. However, what tends to happen is, unless you make that pine pitch a certain formulation to give, as that wood, if it would dry at all, it shrinks, and also it's difficult to make pitch stick to a wet surface.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what can be used to...
Tell me.
Just sand.
Yes.
Just sand.
No. I mean, how am I going to... If that thin spot leaks, how am I going to keep it from... How am I going to keep water from...
Well, okay, so what I do is I stuff some plant material in there, and the very best plant material is slippery elm bark, red elm bark.
Right.
And there's quite a few accounts of that. You've probably encountered a few of them. If you take a piece of inner bark of slippery elm and chew it up, it forms an amazing substance. It's like a fiber wad that's held together, with lack of a better word, for like mucus. And it's waterproof. So you can stuff it down in that hole, and as long as it stays wet, it seals it. It's a very good sealant. It will also seal buckets with seams.
Yeah.
So that's what I would use. But most often, honestly, I have a little leaky spot, and I'll just grab some lily pads and a stick and jam them.
Nice.
So Erik Vosteen goes down in history as the first person to use the word mucus in the number of But also,
we'll have to write that down.
He's a primitive technologies expert. If you want to get a hold of him, it's brentmudd.com. We've got some things for sale. Hit the link. We got time for one more question, Kyle.
One more question. Better make it good.
Would someone use a dugout canoe on a trip where they have to do portages?
Well, not unless you have to. It's a very, very heavy craft for portaging, and typically, there's typical situations and there's non-typical situations, but typically, they're going to be built on the waterway they're used on, the lake or the river system, and not be portaged very far over very much because they're so incredibly heavy. It would actually probably be, if you had say a 2-mile portage with all of your stuff, it would probably be easier to build another canoe in the other waterway than it would to drag that one across there.
Although, what was that? Where was that one reference? I think it was in that book you loaned me. I think it's down in the office if I haven't given you that back yet.
Yeah, I'll have to grab that.
I think there was the reference in that book about the person, he took the canoe downstream a long way, and then he was trying to come up river, and he had so much trouble with that he gave up. He pulled the canoe out, and he bought a team of oxen and drug it home.
Well, if you have a team of oxen, you're good to go.
It's like, yeah, portage as long as you want.
Unfortunately, they don't get into your canoe with you when it's time to get back on the water. So,
Or a group of 5th graders, right?
Yeah, exactly.
50 fifth graders can drag it, no problem.
Well,
with enthusiasm.
Thank you, Erik, for coming in and answering these
welcome.
great questions.
You're welcome.
And
Thanks
it's
for
a lot
having
of
me.
fun. The project was amazing. Again, if you've got interest in, you do like classroom things.
Yeah, I do stuff in classrooms. I'll be doing pottery up in Michigan, a couple of different schools up there next month, and a lot of things with interpretive facilities. I've built a number of dugouts at events with facilities. So
Yeah, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, make sure to check out his website, burntmud.com. Thank you guys so much for your amazing support and for everything you do, making comments and, just watching our videos. Everything you do supports us. Thank you so much, and thanks for watching.
thanks.
2 donations before we go.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
$2 more from 80's Totally Awesome.
Thank you, 80.
thank you.
You sent food to England is what I need.
Oh, yeah.
Any news? Yeah, they made it and they loved it.
Yes.
And then $10 from Keltoid5, just in case I don't get a chance later.
There he
Merry
is.
Christmas. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.